Hi guys, it's Amy here from Origin Graphics. I am doing this tutorial on coloring for the Guild of Graphics on Wattpad, and this is the first video that I've ever made, so bear with me. I will probably be a little wordy and will probably get off track a lot, but I know that a lot of people have asked me about how I do my coloring, and I was going to make a tutorial for it, and then I realized that it was just too hard to type out everything that I wanted to type out, so I just decided to do a video. So I'm going to take you through 4 different covers that I've made. Long Shadows, A Dream of Ravens, A Druid's Fall, and Hall of Games. They all have kind of different colors, so I figured these would be good examples of what is happening on a daily basis. So we are just going to start with this one. I'm going to turn off all the layers and then gradually turn them back on, and I'll kind of talk about what I did on each layer, if there was something related to coloring. So it's kind of also a walkthrough of my process, so I hope you enjoy. So I just had, so the hue and saturation layers, you can see I just turned the saturation down and I turned the hue up, so this changes like the coloring of each specific photo, so you kind of want all the hues of the photos to be the same when you're making a graphic so that things don't stand out. So I added this and I did the same thing to that. If you'll see right here, I added the hue to that, and then I just had these different space layers. And see, I had this light and I wanted it to be purple, so I changed the hue to be more purple. Same thing with that. I was just adding lights and stuff. I don't remember whether I took those out or not. I don't turn off my layers, or I don't delete my layers once I'm done with them. So now we get to the model, and this is the really important part. I erased some of it on my mask because of what I added later. So with the model, her hair, you want to match the model's hues with the ones that are around, so that when you do your final coloring, everything makes sense. And see, the way that I do that, partially, the first step is to add some shadows and highlights where you want them, and the easiest way I found to do this is to add a new layer, clip it to the model, and then hit Edit, Fill, 50% gray, and set that to overlay. And then you take your dodge and burn tools at like, I don't know, 17%, and I just come in here and I say, okay, my light source is from behind her, and I think I added some lights over there, so I want like the front of her dress to be a little bit darker, especially like anything that's kind of darker in the crevices you want to make even darker so that they stand out a little bit. So there's going to be some shadows under here, fitting because this title is Long Shadows. And then I do the same, this is just quick, and I do the same thing with the dodge tool. So I want her face to be lighter, like she's looking into the light, and this thing needs to be lighter because I'm going to add glow to it, and I really think her hair is too dark, so I'm just... Okay, so you can see what I did quickly, how much of a difference that makes in terms of where the light is on the graphic. Light is super important. It's something that you want to pay attention to very early. You always want to know where your light source is coming from pretty much as soon as you start. So then you can see that that is the one that I did when I took more time. I just added a white paint to that. Okay, so then I did a color balance for the model. So the color balance has shadows, midtones, and highlights. So you can see for my midtones, I made her a little bit more purplish, and then the same thing for shadows and highlights on the model. And you can see what a huge difference that makes with her. She would look really purple just by herself, but with the graphic it makes sense. I don't remember if I kept any of these things, but we'll just turn them all on. So I was just adding more hue and saturation. I use that a lot. More hue and saturation, very important. Look at all that hue and saturation. Gotta zoom out a little bit. Okay, so this is what it would look like if I had done absolutely nothing to my graphic except for put the, you know, the hue and saturation layers so that all the things look together, make sense together. And, you know, it looks okay, but there's nothing special about it. It doesn't really pop at all. There's still some places that I'm not too happy with the coloring, and this is where a lot of people start to add PSDs. And that's totally fine if that's what you want to do. I just found that I could do it myself faster because I knew what I wanted instead of having to go through all these different PSDs and turn off layers that I didn't want and try to figure out what made sense for me. It was just easier to learn how to do it myself, so that's what I'm trying to teach you how to do. And it's really actually pretty easy once you get the hang of it. So the first thing I always do is add a gradient map. That's like, if I don't think I've ever made a graphic that does not have a gradient map on it. They are my favorite thing ever. So the way that this works, you're gonna go down here or up here. I normally go up here and hit gradient map, and it starts out with whatever color you had on your foreground, background. There's a bunch of preset ones. So basically what it does is it makes like a gradient in different levels of the graphic, so you just want to change the colors to be like what you want it to be. So I think, like, see how it's changing this part? So I want that to be like a dark purple color, and then this area I want to be like kind of more of a purplish pink, and then the area right behind her I want to be a kind of a light purplish blue. So then you just hit OK, and you're going to set that to either overlay or soft light. Normally I go with soft light, so you can see what a difference that made, just deepening some of the shadows and making the area in the middle stand out a little bit. Let's see. Okay, so I made this one a little bit more pink than I made my last one, but we'll stick with the last one. So then I normally add, sometimes I'll add a color balance layer. It just depends on how much time I'm taking and whether I'm happy with what the gradient map did or not. So like, let's say I want to make this a little bit more blue, so I'd be making the shadows and the highlights a little bit more blue, and that can totally change the way that your graphic appears. So it makes it really, really easy to change colors, whereas PSD I think is a little bit harder to change colors, at least just personally. I'm not a huge fan of them, but whatever makes you happy, that's the motto. Okay, so I'll just leave that on. Now for the color lookup, a lot of people don't use this. I actually kind of like it. It's a bunch of kind of preloaded settings, I guess, that Photoshop has in it already, so you just kind of go through and see which ones you really like. This one down here, the foggy night, I really like that one when I'm doing graphics where I want it to be like nighttime, because it really darkens the blues and helps a lot with that. These Fuji Eterna ones are good, the Kodak ones are good. Ooh, I like that one. So yeah, I really like that one, so we're going to keep that. I had fall colors before, I like fall colors too. But I really like that one, so I think we're gonna stick with that one. And then what I always do, let's put that on the top. And, okay. So the selective color, it kind of is similar to color balance. You just want to make sure that you don't overdo your selective color, because if you're overdoing it, that just never really ends well, because then your graphic is like super saturated or super one color oriented, which mine typically are very one color oriented, but hopefully it's done in a more tasteful way. So I almost always go down here to neutrals, and I change, see it's changing like the cyan tones of the graphic into different colors. Yellow normally does stuff with like lightness. That's what I've found. Same with black, so if you want it to be no and oh no. So you want it somewhere like, I want it to be a little bit lighter, so we'll just keep it like that. And then vibrance, I always turn on just because the last step that I do makes it a little bit less vibrant, so I want to keep my vibrance on. And this step is also very important. This next step, levels. So it's a little bit harsh right here at the moment because I did some different colors than I had done before, but if you just take a little beep up with the levels like that, I'm kind of figured out this is my fake Steph graphic glow. So how she always gets her graphics to just like have that glow, this is the best way that I've figured out how to do it, just based off of coloring. If you just give the graphic a little pop up with levels down here, it really helps make it stand out and be brighter while still keeping the dark colors the way that you want them. Again, I'm not very happy with this area right here, but if I was actually making this over again, I would go back and fix it. And you'll see, since I have my text layers under my final layers, it kind of has this like bluish tinge. If I brought it up above, it'd be kind of silver, and I just think that it stands out more if it's below all of your adjustment layers. And then the final step that I always do, so on the keyboard you're gonna hit Control, Alt, Shift, and E, and this combines all of the layers together, and change it to linear light. Looks a little scary right now. And then filter, other, high pass. And it's really weird because it depends on what computer I'm on. If I'm on my laptop, this is set to like 0.3, I think, and if I'm on this computer, it's set to 0.9, and it looks exactly the same on both computers with different pixels, so I really just don't know why. So set it to 0.9, and so if you turn this on and off, you'll see it just sharpens, like how her face was kind of a little bit blurry before. It just sharpens the things around it and makes the overall graphic just a lot more vibrant, I guess, in a sharp way. See, now I'm rambling. Okay, well, I hope that this part of the tutorial was helpful for you. I will go and do maybe one of these others in a separate video because I can only put a video that's up to 15 minutes on YouTube, and that is what's happening right now. So good luck, you know. Shoot me a comment if you have any questions, or if you want to complain about my horrible narration skills. Either one is completely fine.